Okay, we'd like to call this meeting to order. I'd like to thank everybody in the audience for coming tonight. Really appreciate you guys. It's not Valentine's night, so we're planning on going to about midnight, if that's okay. No, we will be a little bit longer. But the first thing we do is always a flag salute with Director DeHart.
Allegiance to the flag. States of America.
Just at a request, I'd like to remind the board to speak as loud as you can into your mic, and I'll try to stay far enough away from mine so everybody can hear it. So that'd be cool. The first thing we're going to do tonight is just kind of go over reviewing the agenda. We've got a few changes on that for everybody, but we'll go through our approval minutes for last meeting, then the consent agenda. There's a couple of fun ones on there that will be fun to read on the consent agenda. Well, I guess they're always fun, but these will be extra special. Under the reports, we're gonna have a little bit of a change. We'll start off with Lisa Yarnell and her whole team going off the health center. Then we're going to switch to the bond update with Casey Cunningham and our Larry Hampton. And then after that, then we will go to Nicole Love, the principal at Edwards Elementary, and to Ashley Lee, the principal at Joanne Austin. And so that'll be the order of how we're doing those reports and presentations. And then we'll drop down into the other business. So with that said, it's going to be a good meeting. We're going to hear some good information tonight, and we'll look forward to that. So first thing is the approval of minutes from 2/14/23. If anybody make a motion.
I move that the Newburgh District Board of Directors approve the consent agenda as presented.
I second it.
All those in favor, please say or raise your right hand. I did it 6-0. Director Riley is not here, but he's on Zoom.
Motion was consent agenda. You read minutes.
Oh, I did.
Oh, I'm sorry.
My fault.
Excuse me.
Yeah. Back to the consent agenda.
To approve the minutes.
I approve the minutes.
Not the consent.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I move to approve the minutes as presented.
And I second it.
All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 6-0. Tabitha, do you have Mr. Riley there? Got it. All right, next one up is on the
Consent agenda.
review agenda. Hear a motion on that?
The
On the
consent
consent
agenda.
agenda?
Can you talk a little bit about what's in the consent agenda? If that's all right, because we normally do.
Yeah, I'm gonna go through that. It's gonna be staff non-rules, new hires, resignations, and then there's the Austin Family Legacy Trust donation, Cornerstone Marble and Tile, and a Newburgh Rotary Foundation. So I'll get a little more detail on that when we get to those.
I move that the Newburgh School District Board of Directors approve the consent agenda as presented.
All those in favor, raise your right hand.
Second. Did we get a second?
Yeah, he had the second first day.
Okay, we got you. All those in favor, raise your right hand. 6-0. On the consent agenda tonight, it's kind of fun to read these. There's a lot of people in our community that are super generous. The first one is we're accepting a IPF printer donation from HS CAD program valued at $500 from Cornerstone Marble and Tile out of Hillsborough. These things are awesome for our schools. The second one is we're accepting donation from the Austin Family Legacy Trust for the high school McGrath Gymnasium in amount of $5,000. And again, there's just a lot of work. That's an old gym, needs a lot of work. The roof needs a lot of repair. So again, the Austin family is always doing so much for the school district. The last one, and I appreciate who came up tonight and told me, a donation of $11,450 from the Newburgh Rotary Foundation for the NHS resource room, but really it's all the resource rooms for the entire school district. The resource rooms are something that all of our staff can direct students to, from anything from, small food type sources to all kinds of clothing and personal items that they may need, book supplies, writing, pens, all those kind of things. When I was at the high school, I got a chance to do that a lot. It's super valuable. And our staff does a great job. But that donation tonight, having that person come up before the meeting started, it's just huge for them to have that kind of money to put into their resource room. So, a big thanks to the Newburgh Rotary Foundation. So if you get a chance to write a note ever to the Rotary Foundation, do it for something like that. And then the Austins, even though they do so much, they probably appreciate a note or an email. And then also Cornerstone Marble and Tile. It's always nice to be thanked for these generous donations. So thank you to all of them. So next up, we have our reports and presentations. And Alicia Arnell has a crew of people from Providence and the Wellness Center. And I think they're going to come up and dazzle us right now.
I feel like I'm kind of like Girl Scouts or something, but these are just little gifts from us, for each of you to say thank you for supporting the health clinic. And, they're actually made by the entrepreneur class at the high school, and the snow delayed the shipment of the sweatshirts. They're really cool. So there's a little picture of what they look like. And it says, to the person behind me, you're braver than you believe, stronger than you seem, and smarter than you think. We're here for you. And it has the tiger on it. So, but there's a shirt right here for you as well. So. All right, where do you guys stand? From here?
Turn on the mic.
All right. Okay. Well, thanks for having us. Hi. Yes. And I think you have a packet in front of you, but I'm not going to be a long-winded presenter, as I know that you have a long meeting. So, is it going to go on the screen or? Okay. If I could just have thank you. All right. So first off, I'm Elise. I think I know all of you. I don't know you, Brian, but nice to meet you. And, closer. No, far away.
You were good.
Oh, I was good. Okay. All right. So my name is Elise Yarnell, and I'm the director of access for Providence Medical Group. And then I have Dr. Turgeson, who is our clinical director for behavioral health. And then I have Nell Rafalovich, who is our medical director for access strategies for Oregon, and she oversees the clinical component of the health clinic. And I first just want to say specifically thank you to Dr. Phillips. It's been a pleasure to get to know you and work with you. And thank you for being such a strong supporter of the clinic. And it's been great. And also to Chair Brown for just all you've done as well. Coming alongside the health clinic when I know it's been a difficult time for our community. And historically, maybe people would think that we wouldn't be friends, but we have developed a great relationship, and I really appreciate it. So without further ado, I will just jump straight in. So there are 6 phases. A lot of people are involved in this health clinic to make it function and happen. But the people that I want to introduce in the room, I don't want to forget. In the back, we have Jan Hart. Please stand. And Jan is our lead of the Newburgh High School resource room, which you, if you don't know about the resource rooms, are just incredible resource for our kids needing any social determinants of health support. And then Katie Worthington, who's going to be so embarrassed, but there she is. And Katie is just a force. If you don't know her, she is always at the front desk, ready for any youth that walks through or family member. And she is the really district liaison between the health clinic and the district. So between the schools, really coordinating with parents, scheduling appointments, et cetera. And then I have also Brandy and Alexa back there, who are also at the front and do a lot of support. So, and then also thank you to Tony Buckner. I just saw your face. So Tony has been incredible as well from day one. Hello. Okay, so just operational information about the clinic. We're open Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. Those are the building hours. And then Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 11:30 to 1:30 is the resource room, that the hours that have dedicated district volunteers. But that doesn't mean that that's the only time that a kid can access the center. A kid can come in anytime between 8 and 5, and we will also support them into the resource room. And then our virtual care hours is also something that is a huge benefit to the district families, is that we can support any kid or family 7 days a week, 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. Through our virtual sick clinic. That is an extension of the medical group. And that also provides RN triage support. So for everyone listening at home or in the audience, we really want every family to feel like you are a part of the Providence family and that we support anyone in your family. And let us know anything we can do to support you. So moving on to financial investment, I put this slide together mostly just because I think it's incredible to see the amount of community support that has gone into this building, and really would not be here without the support of the school board as well. So thank you for supporting it. And you can see over $2.1 million has been invested in the last year to get this clinic open. And on the first slide, you can see all of the partners that are a part of this clinic, but namely, also the Austin Family Foundation was a huge reason why we're here today. About 5 years ago, when we lost 6 kids to suicide, that really is what started this work of a collaboration of many community partners coming together. The Austins brought us together and really called the question of how we can collaborate and not duplicate services as healthcare organizations. We tend to do that, to duplicate services and create silos, and really, I'm sure if you call your doctor's office right now, it's difficult to get in or even get someone on the phone. And so they've invested a ton of resources, financial support into our organizations, and then directly into Newburgh schools so that kids can get access to care quicker. Coordination of care. So often I get the question, who is it that is supporting my kids? And this is a diagram that just shows the 6, what I would call tenants or support systems that are working together to support your kids. And also we want to support your families. So that would be our Newburgh Public Schools counseling team. They are incredible. I know a question that's come up is, what is the difference between the counseling team and the behavioral health team? The counseling team is that first point of contact and touch. A lot of kids, we want kids to go wherever they feel the most comfortable. So a lot of kids have great established relationships with our counselors, and we couldn't do it without them. They're that really first point of contact to bridge them to us for more long-term care. District support team, I can't speak high enough about our administrative team, the district office team, our school nurse, Annie Berger, behavioral health supports like Leo, and then safety, our school resource officer, Officer Moreland. He is incredible. He comes and hangs out with us often, but he is just someone that we really rely upon as well to be a part of the conversation and case reviews that we're doing. Social determinants of health support. So that would be access to food, clothing, shelter is a component, transportation, utilities. That's through the Newburgh High School resource room. We also support, we have a student support fund where we have some money set aside that we can help families with routine needs that they need support with. So we've supported paying rent for a number of families, their PGE bill, their water bill, whatever that need is, we are happy to support with that. And then obviously physical health and behavioral health. Behavioral health is supported by Providence, Yamhill County, HHS, George Fox, and Pacific. It's really a group together working. So data, important. Since October 24th opening through February 18th, we have served 1,574 kids encounters. So those are not unique patients or unique students, but that is 1,574 times we have served a kid either through a behavioral health visit, a physical health visit, or a resource room visit. When you break that down, you can see the blue is Providence supporting, the orange is Yamhill County, and then the green is our resource room district volunteers. And I do just want to call out how incredible it is, 726 encounters through the resource room just at Newburgh High School, and that is through district volunteers. So thank you to our parents and our people in the community that are supporting through the resource room. I don't know how we would survive without it. And then we currently have an 81-second phone response time. So again, making that plug, if you can't get into your primary care doctor, only 81 seconds and you can get through to someone. So that is something I'm really proud of. And then I will move on to Nell for physical health to talk about what we're seeing through the clinic.
Thank you, Elise. So for our physical health breakdown, our reason for visits are listed here on this slide. And our top three are the coming out of our three surges. We're calling it the tridemic of COVID, but that wasn't even our greater numbers. It's that head cold and the flu and rhinovirus. So lots of different things coming out of that cold and flu season that we're still finishing up. So that comprised the majority of our visits, 25%. So upper respiratory infection, influenza-like illnesses. So kids coming in and our staff and adults with cough, sore throat, fever. We do have lots of different testing available in our labs and able to support those patients. We also had a lot of fun and have a lot of fun doing sports physicals and well child checks. So helping these kids get to their practices and tryouts and keeping them safe and keeping them up to date. And then the third, just kind of in the top three, I'll highlight are the immunizations. We have a lot of flu shots available and updating MMR, hepatitis A, B, different required vaccines and optional vaccines as well available for these kids. So that was about 24%. And then you can see the other ones are much lower, but available. So we really do pride ourselves in having a very open access clinic for family medicine, just all across the board, whatever needs are appropriate and available that need to be served. So thank you.
Now we'll move on to Dr. Turgeson with behavioral health.
So Elise already mentioned we're lucky enough to have a really great partnership between Yamhill County Mental Health, Providence, and then George Fox University and Pacific University, their doctoral programs for clinical psychology, which provides some additional behavioral health support providers. You can just go ahead and go to the next slide. So here, similar to how Nell outlined, this really shows the reason for visits and the primary diagnoses that we're seeing kids for from a behavioral health standpoint. So the vast majority of the kids are coming in with some form of a depression or a depressive disorder. So maybe it's a full major depressive episode, an adjustment disorder, some more mild mood-related symptoms. And then after that, substance use disorders are really significant. I know we did our fentanyl presentation recently, so we're definitely seeing a lot of kids for nicotine use, marijuana, alcohol, other substance use disorders, which tie in very closely to mental health and mental health related presentations. And then anxiety and trauma related disorders really make up the rest of the primary diagnoses that we're seeing kids for right now. The next slide. I think that this slide is just really important. We started this journey related to having 6 kids die by suicide in a 6-month time period. And so really keeping track and making sure that we're really active around risk and risk management and risk assessment. So right now, about 85% of the kids that are coming in for mental health visits are expressing some level of suicidal ideation. Now, these are not all actively suicidal kids, but 85% is still a striking number. So I think something that we really want to just be aware of as a community and continue to have conversations for the kids that we're seeing or that we might come into contact with. When we look at those 85%, right now around 25% are in the low risk category. So these are kids, they don't have an active plan. They're not intending to harm themselves, but they definitely get some of those fleeting thoughts that might come in from time to time or more kind of urges to escape. So we're watching them closely. We're working on coping skills. We're developing some resiliency strategies to help them be able to manage the mood and the triggers that might be related to those thoughts that come passing through. Vast majority of the kids that we're serving are in that moderate risk category. So these are kids that they have more significant ideation. They may have a plan, but we're really able to do some good safety planning with them, come up with strategies, and help them feel like they can really actively manage that risk level safely at home. And then around 20% of our kids are in that high risk category. So these are kids that we are collaborating really closely with families. We have really robust safety plans. We're working with the school. These are actively suicidal kiddos that do have a plan. They do have some thought in how they might put that into place. And we're working really hard to have a comprehensive, holistic team that's wrapping around them to keep them safe. Some of these kids, they have had visits to our emergency department. They've had inpatient psychiatric hospital stays. I think one of the other benefits of having the school-based health center is that if we do have a kiddo that needs to access that higher level of care, we're able to help support the school with step down. So it is not uncommon that a kiddo will be in the emergency department, they'll have a hospitalization, they will get left with a disposition plan, or they will discharge with a disposition plan. But the school who's supporting these kids for 6-8 hours a day might not have awareness of that plan. And so we can really help wrap around and provide some additional resourcing to help ease that kiddo's pathway back into the school and make sure that the counselors, teachers, resource room really feel like they have the information that they need to support that student well within the school environment. So it's been really, I think this is the heart of what we're doing and why this work is so meaningful. And so the fact that we're able to collaborate so closely, we do monthly staff consultations with the counselors, really talking about who are the kiddos that are on our radar, what are the things that we can do to support them, how can we work better from a health center, what can the counselors do to support these students. So it's been a really meaningful partnership. And did I not? So I guess like for all of these kids, just to make sure, I know I really talked about like WRAP support for the high risk. All of these kids that have suicidal ideation do have parental involvement as part of that, because that's part of that safety planning, risk mitigation at home. So not just our high risk kids, all of our kids, if they're suicidal, we're really making sure that we're wrapping around and engaging family support or a safe adult.
So I think that's all we have, but I'm happy to answer any questions. And again, I just want to really say thank you. And for those of you that are interested in coming and seeing the space in person, we would welcome you anytime. And I know Jan's always looking for volunteers too.
I do have a couple of questions. Is it Dr. Ferguson?
Ferguson.
Okay. I'm curious, how long have you been doing this?
So I have been lucky enough to partner with the school. I think this is year 5 or 6 with the school district specifically. I've been licensed for 10, 11, year 7. Wow. I've been licensed for 11 plus years now.
Yeah,
10 years.
nice. Well, and I guess the reason I ask is I'm just curious, these numbers, 85% is very troubling.
Mhm.
So I guess I'm wondering, society wise, community wise, are we getting better or are we getting worse? How effective is the program? And then I guess my other question is, you mentioned, you're teaching, giving the kids some coping mechanisms, some resiliency, stuff like that. And I'm wondering, is there something we should be doing early on? I've had conversations with leadership about me from a parent standpoint, there's certain characteristics that we want our children to have, right?
Mhm.
I think most of us would agree that, you know, resiliency, honesty, all those things that are honorable characters that we like to see in individuals. I'd like to see the school taking more of a chance to I guess, integrate that into our, somehow integrate it in a curriculum. So we're really teaching those things. And I'm kind of rambling, but I'm wondering,
No, you're
should we
great.
be doing something earlier on within our curriculum, within our teaching, within our schools, within our culture, to foster that stuff? So we're not getting to this 85% point.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to separate those questions. So suicide risk for youth, I think, is really tricky. So Oregon continues to be one of the highest in the nation for death by suicide for youth. It's the second leading cause of death for youth under the age of 21 in our state, and we continue to have above average rates. And I think part of that is we have difficulty with accessing mental health services. In Yamhill County, we are technically a rural health area, so access to resources is limited, and getting connected to care. And I think opening up comfort and opening up some of those really difficult conversations to be able to ask someone and then follow up with giving resources is an opportunity for ongoing growth that we all have within our community. We're also a community that has been touched by suicide, and we know that knowing an individual who has died by suicide does increase an individual's risk. So inherently, our community has some higher risk given our history. With that being said, I think we have made a lot of really good progress, that there have been some wonderful efforts. Like this is an amazing example of that effort, that we are able to partner together as a district, come in and have really meaningful conversations and make sure that we have supports and resources. We've developed standardized risk assessments for the counselors to use at the high school. And so there's a lot of consistency in how we're approaching kids. There's a lot of consistency in the work that we're doing. And with that really positive progress, there have also been a lot of out of control stressors that have impacted. So I think COVID is probably the thing that lands first and foremost on everybody's minds, that kids weren't able to access resources. Maybe they were they were definitely at home significantly more. And so the impact of COVID on mood related concerns has definitely been significant. We've seen significant increases in emergency department utilization of teens, increased suicidal ideation of teens. And so in a lot of ways, there's kind of this uphill battle that we're facing. And I think positively, I have not had Tony call us in to say that we've had another episode of multiple youth die by suicide. We definitely have a lot of work to go, but I think that we can see really positive things within our district and the work that we've done so far as part of that process. As far as things that we can continue to do, I love early intervention. I think the more that we can open up these conversations and start sooner and younger, the better. I was so excited a couple of months ago. I got to go to Mountain View Middle School, which is also where my daughter goes. So it's a double win for me. And they asked me to come in and talk about stress and coping strategies for stress. And so I got to spend about 25 minutes with the entire Mountain View Middle School student body talking about healthy coping strategies. How do we recognize stress? How do we recognize anxiety? What are good coping strategies that we can use to feel more in control of those emotions? And it was just such a positive, exciting way to talk about early intervention, rather than waiting to stress getting so high that it becomes an anxiety disorder, that it becomes panic, that it gets to a point where it does trigger suicidal ideation. So I think things like that, there's really amazing curriculums of how do we build good coping strategies and teach kids those resiliency factors at an early age that would be amazing to see built in at different levels.
Nice.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I do have a question in the packet that you sent. I think this is very nice, very informative. I appreciate that. We have a billing chart that talks about the costs, and that's some of it, there's financial assistance. I do see for mental health therapy that is supervised by Providence, executed by GFU site doctoral student, that it's free. I would love to know if there is any limitation to us, or like a criteria that a student needs to meet to have access to this resource. And I say this because in my experience, therapy is something that everybody should do.
Amen.
Amen to that. Yes.
So everyone should have someone to talk
Mhm.
for an hour a week or an hour every 2 weeks or whatever it is that you need to talk about it, because we all have our struggles, and having those guidelines is so important.
Yeah.
And I will say that the healthcare system is not very friendly towards that.
No.
And seeing that we have this resource, I would love to see every student, even if they're not in crisis, even if they're not depressed, even if they're
Absolutely.
not in a situation that there is a criteria that they need to meet to have access to this resource, that they could have access to this resource as a preventive way to,
Absolutely.
figure out and develop skills to not be a future patient of a more escalated situation. So, and I'm gonna go on, continue to say, because this is also helpful for the GFU students.
Yeah.
Because they will see, they will be exposed to more clinical situations where their practice can be on more severe case, on less severe case, and that will be, so I'd love to, have you guys work on what would that look like for every single child in our school district who wants to have access to this to be able to.
They can. That's the bottom line, is that any kid in Newburgh Public Schools can access it. If they're under the age of 14, it needs to be initiated by a parent or guardian. So they can give us a call at that number listed in our the information section, schedule an appointment. You'll be on the phone with Alexa, Brandy, or Katie, and we'll schedule an appointment, and it is free. It's free because they're students and Dr. Turgeson oversees all of the students. So Dr. Turgeson is supervising and reviewing all of the charts. So that is also an additional added benefit.
So that phone number is 971-231-5855. So parents, please do that for your students.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Free because they're students and Dr. Turgeson.
I was wondering, does the health clinic offer gender transition services to students?
No.
So that phone number is 971.
So we are gender affirming care. I think we would say that anyone that walks through our doors is going to be welcome, accepted. But in terms of transition, no.
I was wondering, and so if a student came wanting those services, what would you do?
We would talk to them about, do you want to, this is much more your.
I can see.
Gender
Yeah, no. So I think
affirming.
like any situation where a kiddo who is coming in is requesting a service that we don't offer, our first is to make sure that they feel safe and welcome, and then to have a conversation with them around how we can involve their family, to have a family-based discussion on what is the appropriate next step for them to get that care need met, and if that's consistent with family values, and it's just a really open conversation. Yeah. So similar to any of the other specialty related healthcare that's listed that we don't provide. What was that?
Even if they are over 15.
My absolute
Families.
goal and the goal of the clinic is to involve family members at every encounter. We're asking kids every time if they have imminent risk or safety concerns or very valid reasons why family can't be involved, then we work with that and kind of continue to work with them. But our goal is absolutely to have family involvement in care.
But just to be clear, because under the appendix, it says that a minor who is 14 years or older may access outpatient mental health, drug or alcohol treatment without parental consent. Would that not fall under that?
So in the state of Oregon, yes, a minor can initiate mental health services. And our goal as a health clinic, the policies that we have set are at a higher level within that we are really attempting to engage families and all families in healthcare. And gender affirming care services are not within the scope of the practice that we're doing at the clinic.
Thank you. Would that not fall under that?
So in the state of Oregon, yes, a minor. can-
Okay, no more questions right there. Dr. Phillips has something to say to you guys.
We're fired.
I want to say thank you very much. This has been,
And.
it's been enjoyable, and I pop into the clinic quite often.
Mhm.
Because I'm at the high school and I've got time, so I'll run by, and it's just always, it's upbeat, it's positive, it's great. And I've been a customer twice. And so I can tell you it is, I'll tell the community, one of the concerns early on was maybe that the care would be less than. It's not. It's the A-team. I mean, it's top notch, and I don't plan on going somewhere else unless it's above what you can do. But yeah, it's been great. Prescriptions called in quick, all that good stuff. So I just really appreciate it. I think it's been great, and I'm a customer, so thank you.
Did they really take 81 seconds?
I think it was less.
Really? Okay. It's a little longer than 81 at the main shop over there. So. Okay. I would just like to say thanks. I think when this first started out, Elise and I did know each other. And it was, I think, in our community, we're a little different than maybe other communities. And so things get said. And I remember when we first met, it was like, I don't know if I can like this person or like this person or like that person. And it's been just the opposite. I think Dr. Phillips and I met with you and Nels, and it's just been open and honest and talking. And, just from my perspective, all the years working there and now, we're not in the same world we were when you went to school. We're just not. And it's hard. It's different. I'm talking to 45 girls today at Canby High School, and there's stuff they're going through that we just did not go through. And so I thank you guys too. We'll just keep talking and dialoguing and keep fine tuning. That was our goal from the start. Just keep fine tuning it and making it as good as we can. It won't fit everybody's needs perfectly, but at least thank you. Appreciate it. And also a shout out to Jan Hart. Jan, can you stand up one more time?
Yay.
And then Tony Buckner, can you stand up? I'm just telling you, if everybody in this community was as nice as they are and has much patience with the rest of us, it would be an awesome community. We are awesome, but it could be awesomer. You two are great. Thank you so much. Now, if they're smart, they're going to grab their stuff and jet and get home. So our next one up is we are going right to the bond update with Casey Cunningham and our Larry Hampton. It would be an awesome community. We are awesome, but it could be awesome. You two are great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So I'm Casey Cunningham with Cornerstone Management Group. We're the owner's representative firm hired by the district to kind of manage the program in coordination with Larry and the principals and Dr. Steve as well. And so it's an honor to be here to kind of present to you guys and kind of give you a status update. And it's cool to follow up with that student-based health center. It's probably was our number one big project that we started here. And so it's cool to see how the bond, it has immediate impact on the community. And I mean, you'll see it in some of these pictures too, how we can really impact student learning and basically improving the community with these new structures and just the way we've integrated them and designed them. They're really, they're not just schools, they're part of the community. And that was one of the goals of our design teams. And Larry and I sat down with everyone early on and made sure that was an important part of what we were doing, is that we weren't just building institutions, we were building schools that would have impact for a long time. Basically improving the community. So with that, let's go to the next slide. Kind of have a little bit of an agenda. So we're going to give you a big update on the Edwards High School catalyst updates, just show you some pictures, show you how fast we're moving on these projects, and just kind of the progress. And then we'll go through. Last time you guys talked to me, you wanted to see a lot more of the Dundee project. So we got renderings and some floor plans to show you. And then we had a really big month, and you'll see this, the whole month. We started, our first bid was the 31st January. We've had 2 a week since then, and we had really good results in a market where we just never know what we're going to get. We ended up in a really good spot, and then we'll talk how good of a spot we are with our program and project contingencies and the grants that we're chasing right now. And then Larry will talk about what the future holds as future projects and just opportunities with what the money remains as we head into after 2023 summer. So with that, we'll start with Edwards. This is one obviously right next door. We get an upfront view every time we're here and kind of get an idea, but you don't get this aerial view very often. So one of the cool things is we're working with Stratascape, who's just out of up there the road, Sherwood, a company that does all these cool aerial photography for us. So this was a month ago, and you can just see how far we've come. We've got the walls, kind of cool to see kind of how that integrated ceiling structures in there. If you look to the far north up the cafeteria, you'll see what we call the roof monitors, which essentially are, a series of stacked windows that kind of light in taking advantage of the sun's angle. So slip to the next slide. And this is 2 weeks later, which is already outdated. We've got entire roof structure. We're getting dried in. Now on the side of the cafeteria, we've got it's a cool, exposed wood laminated structure that's already in. And so it's just tremendous progress. One of the advantages of how we've done these projects is this is the CMGC project, and we're able to work with our contractor to figure out how they can be really efficient. I mean, that's just one of the things. And so if you go out there, you see all this plastic that's on there, and they're keeping the building dry so that as soon as they get to a point where they're dried in, they can immediately go to drywall. If they don't do that, we have to wait a 2-week drying period. You have to bring a lot of heat in to make sure that we're doing that. And so, sometimes with good planning, you save costs. And this is one of the ways that they do that. And, having a good partner in the construction field is huge with getting positive results. And so they're moving fast. And one more, just kind of a side picture there. This is kind of looking at that roof monitor that you'll see there and the projection of all the daylight that'll go in there. You got big, nice glue lamp structures. Just dramatic improvement over the old cafeteria. So it's really cool to see. One of the cool things we're working with Renee and a team of the school staff and facility staff to kind of work on a couple of cool murals that we've talked about in the past. And we're in the middle of kind of finalizing that RFP process to bring the artist in and work on some cool art that's going to integrate the community and the Edwards school as well in 2 different areas. So we're excited about that opportunity. Moving on to the high school. So this is once again a month ago. You can see, we can see into the building. We got some metal studs going up. All the structures complete and no roof, and they're starting to do the green stuff that you see is the exterior, the DIN shield. It's got different terms, but it's basically our first layer of waterproofing. And flip to the next slide. You can see that you were starting to get some roof and starting to get some of that green stuff. The specific brand that they have there is actually a green board. We'll see yellow and white and blue and lots of different colors out there, but this one's a green. So the next slide to kind of show all the way wrapped on the front there. This is another kind of just unique with the CMGC process of how we're able to get ahead of procurement. So on a typical project, we wouldn't have doors right there already. And so we're already getting to the point where we're having, doors and security and things like that. So we took a lot of time thinking about what would bite us if we wouldn't get done early. And so this is one of the procurement wins is, having doors and hardware on site already. At this time in the project is huge. Last year at this time, we were waiting eight months for doors and hardware. So on typical project, we wouldn't have doors right there already. Catalyst, another, really cool project that's not very often do you connect to a building like this. So we're connecting to the existing building, make sure we keep them intact. We've had lots of site visits with the kids there, really integrating that's team there so that they understand what's going on. They feel a part of the construction process and we're not just in their way. But once again, this is a month ago, and flip to the next one. This is most recent, and we've got all the structural ceiling up. Since then, we've actually got the middle part is it's a small gym. It's an activity space more or less for the kids in that program to be able to have an outlet to go and get some get some energy out and also some PE credits. So that roof is up now and we're completely closed in on that backside. And so what you don't see under both of those roofs at Edwards and Catalyst is all the interior framing is done, and same with the high school. I mean, they're just flying underneath there. And so we're, obviously schedule is key, and we know when kids come back at the end of kids come back to school. And so we're grinding hard, and we feel really lucky to have the construction partners we do, especially on these 3 projects, and looking forward to the next ones. Both of those roofs at Edwards and Catalyst is. So with that, it takes us to Dundee. This is kind of a rendering of what the front will be there. You can see, we talked a little bit about roof monitors on the other projects. This is the series of those roof monitors you see with that little triangular structures up there. And then the daylight coming in that front will light up that front entry hallway right there. And so one of the things you're going to start to see is the color, right? So when we design schools now, we think a lot about safety and security, obviously, right? I mean, just the world we live in. So each of our wings has different colors to help our first responders and also help with wayfinding and just create a sense of welcome at the same time as safety and security. So one of the things that we always talk about is how do we make it welcoming, but also safe and secure, without them feeling like the cameras are on them and, that they're, harvested in this little vestibule. And so, obviously, color and light are the real keys to that. And so you'll see a lot of that as we flip through some of these pictures. So site plan here, as you guys know, this project is basically on the corner of 8th and Edwards down there in Dundee, kind of backing its way up to the bypass. And so, really taking advantage of the natural elements that are there, and you'll see some organic shapes, which kind of goes along with what we have out there. So, we got the soccer field, a little softball backstop that'll be up there. And then we have our bus loop in the front, and then parent parking on the side to make sure we have the safety piece there. We separate the buses and kids and parents and kids, right? So that lots of good circulation.
And some of the trees are existing trees. There's some really nice big old oak trees out there, and so preserving the ones we can. There's some that aren't as in great shape, and take those out. But it's nice when you're not starting from scratch with little scrawny trees everywhere.
For sure. So yeah, there's a lot of good walking paths that you'll see, like as you go, like the path that you see around the soccer field is paved track for jogathon and for the PE teachers to take advantage of, community use after hours, lots of the ability to get around the school. On the outside, we have what they call our green seam connection, which is part of the Dundee master plan. It's a walking path along that bypass edge. And so you kind of get a feel for the building there, and we're going to take you through some of the floor plans as we go through, and you'll see that shape as we go to the next few slides. So this is another kind of looking at the aerial view. Eventually, we'll have one of those stratoscape aerial shots, showing this exact view as we start to build this piece, and the monitors are there. So in this bottom corner, you're going to see, it's hard to see a little bit in here, but that's the orange wing, and that's kind of what we're going to focus on as we work our way through the building. Here's that orange wing and how we're implementing. There you go. You see that with the monitor there, you got a little bit of that orange wing, and then one of those window pieces, and each one of those has a little bit of a splash of orange on it. And then we go to the next slide. Those overall floor plan, just kind of get you guys, it's hard to read that obviously, but shape wise, we have the activities wing up there in the top of the sheet. That's the gym and the cafeteria and music. The main office is right there in the middle, and with some classroom wing that's there. And then down is kind of our primary wing with the kindergarten classrooms that are down there as well. And the library is the kind of the rectangular structure in the middle. Overall floor plan. So as you get into the orange wing, you get some orange elements, right? So what we've done with the wayfinding is kind of create some, those corners. You see those transitions of where the green comes into the orange. And really, they'll have specific names for those wings. And then so as the kids and the parents, the teachers learn to navigate the building, they'll be able to refer to not just the orange wing, but it actually will be like the woodland wing. And, they have specific names that not specifically coming to mind right now, but it's a really robust and well thought out kind of plan that we've worked with the principal staff over there at Dundee, and there a lot of good buy-in. So this is our primary classroom wing, kind of give you a typical idea of how they're broken up. We have little pods on each side. with the restrooms in the middle, extended learning over there. And we also have this little flexible learning spaces where it's kind of it's more like a glass pod, right? Where you can kind of bring small groups into, but it has lots of visual to bring the light in, but also make sure that we're able to see inside those rooms. So here's kind of a look into that flexible learning from the extended learning and kind of how we're utilizing the space and showing how the kids will use it. We have, some additional furniture that'll have, different orange elements and different colors that are just kind of keeping that theme all the way through. To bring the light in, kind of look at how we have done the restrooms here. We have the two single-use restrooms on the outside there with we call it the gang restrooms, we call them, that were essentially, grouped together, and we've put the sinks on the outside. So we have lots of visual ability for our teachers and staff to be able to see how the kids are operating in there, and that we don't, a lot of the problems happen within the sink area that's on the outside. So it's well thought out, and we think that we've achieved that. And we obviously took a lot of time to think about sight lines too, where the bathrooms are. They're on the inside versus the outside, so you can't see in there. So put the sinks on the outside. So we have this is the library. Like I said, it's kind of situated in between those two classroom wings, bringing in lots of color again. This is the activities wing. We got a gymnasium, a large gymnasium with seating. So the ability to use this for multiple opportunities. The stage is right there in the middle. It's called the platform, and then it's also got a staircase and kind of an extension of that as it projects into the gym there. So it's cafeteria. So it's a nice, really nice space. We're excited about how it's ended up. The one thing about the gym that's really cool too is how it extends out to that covered place. So it's kind of two big gyms together, as we can use that. The stage is right there in the middle. So here's the inside, looking at that cafeteria with those monitors and the big glue lamp beams and some wood paneling on the outside, keeping it warm as well. So it's nice. This kind of takes us to our 2023 summer bids. So like I said, our first estimate, so our first bid day was 31st. And so you'll see some fluctuation on these pricing. So if it just remind you of how we kind of did this, we worked with our architect and with our bond program list. We had our maintenance list, right? So we had our tier 1 and tier 2 maintenance items that were on here, and so we got those are in that scope. And then so we're going safety and secure vestibules. We are finishing up all of our covered play structures, and within all of those schools, the schools that we're going back to is our maker spaces and extended learning that was part of the bond promise. So at ACES and CV, we're going back to do those CTE spaces and also do some technology upgrades that are there. And so that one was a little bit over. And so, our first one, we're like, okay, deep breath, we're going to be okay. It's not, percentage wise, right around 10%, and we're going to be okay, and so next one, we went to Ewing Young. We came in really well there under, so we're ahead, kind of offset, moved down to the roof. That roof project, that literally is an estimate from our roofing consultant, 800,000. He came at 798. I mean, it's as close as we're going to get with our bids. We were really excited about that, and obviously staying on budget. A little bit of a math error on my spreadsheet there on JA, but we came in under on JA, not over, by about 40,000. So we're good there. And then Maple Rush it was a unique project. It's got a structural element. And so one of the things I'll talk about in the next slide is we're going after seismic grants right now for the structural elements at Maple Rush and Mountain View to get some of that money back. That's in that structural element. But when we do our estimates with our estimators, it's really hard because we do them kind of at what we call our 50% construction document phase, which doesn't have all the scope in there. So that was one that we had money that we knew would probably, it was iffy if whether or not our estimate was right on. And so it came in a little bit above. And then moving down to the roof project there, we came in under. That's really good. I don't know if you've been there lately, but we're on the bucket brigade all the time. So we're excited to get that roof.
Sheets of plastic.
Yeah. And so get that roof fixed. And so Mountain View is once again, this is another one of our sizer projects. doing a really cool office renovation up there. You'll see that, you know, where the kind of the lecture hall is in that front rotunda area is now going to become the office. And so we're working our staff there to get there started early. That one came in significantly under. And then our last one was we just went there with Dundee. You know, this is one that we've been tracking for almost 3 years. This has been, you know, that we knew this would be the one that make or breaks this bond, right? Is how close can we get to our estimate? How well do we manage scope, budget, schedule? And, you know, in this market, we came in at a little 759 over, which is, you know, it's honestly, it's great. We came in and we were hoping for 410, and we came at 435 a square foot, which is really good in this market. We've had a lot of our other elementary schools have come in over 500 a square foot, and so really working hard just to make sure that we deliver, you know, a school that we're all going to be proud of, has all the classrooms we need, all the amenities we need, has a robust gymnasium, cafeteria, but also making sure that we stay within the budget that we set early on. So we're really proud of that. And really good. So kind of summary with contingencies, we started out, go ahead. We started out with our before project bid day, we had 5,430,000 in our program contingency, which is basically our money that was outside of all those budgets and estimates. And after we, you know, refunded those overages that were there, we came in at 4,140,000. So we're right now, like, and so one of the things that Steve and I talked about and Larry is, you know, having cost certainty going into this summer. And so instead of trying to balance those budgets and put that money in between those projects, we're able to keep, you know, some of those contingencies in there. And so we have cost certainty by moving that money there and knowing that we have $4 million available. We've also been in the middle of Edwards High School and the Catalyst project, and we've been talking to those contracts, the CMGC contracts that we have what we call a contractor contingency on there. And we've been able to manage that contract contingency really well. And we're looking at probably almost $1 million coming back to us from those projects by the time it's at the end. And we're actually talking constantly about how do we use that money. And Larry's going to talk about that in the next slide as well. Is how do we use that money during construction so that we don't just get it all in lump sum, but we can use it to tackle some of the projects that we had to defer during our value engineering process. So other money we're working on, we went in for the seismic grants, roughly about $1 million for each school. So Newburgh has never gotten one. So it's actually a really good chance that we do get one. We'll find out in April. Most school districts in the state have gotten one of these seismic grants. So that makes it a really high likelihood for us because they try to equally that out and make sure that everyone's, you know, getting the opportunity to take advantage of the seismic grant program. We have, it's kind of managed by what they call a cost benefit analysis, and you have to get above a 1 to be qualified, and we were above a 1. So we feel really good about our opportunity for that. Facility grants, after we get done with this construction for all of our additional square footage, the state gives you money back for those facilities, additional square footage. And it's actually guaranteed money, but how much available is based on how many projects are finished. So, I mean, I can't say how much we're going to get, but we will get money back for through that facility grant that goes back to general fund. Or facilities. Lastly, Energy Trust, we're still getting money back on our controls projects. Today we got a $22,000 check for Mabel Rush Controls. So that was, you know, money that we were going to do the project anyway, and they give us the money back for those incentives. And then lastly, we have a solar project that's tied to Dundee as part of the green energy technology program the state does. We're required to do 1.5% for new construction that's not part of the renovation. And so the Dundee project will require us to do that 1.5%. And so we're going to put that solar actually over at Ewing Young in an array in the field. So similar to what you guys will see on the freeway, we're going to do that over at Ewing Young, kind of on that with the east side. Yeah, east side. And then obviously the orientation takes advantage of that the north-south exposure. And but we're only required to spend 1.5%. So the infrastructure alone to get conduit and wire and all this stuff over there is going to take up half that cost. So our array is not going to be very large. And so there's other opportunities for us to increase the size of that array through some solar grants and not use general fund or bond dollars for something that isn't required. So that's one of the opportunities that's out there and we're looking into. So what are we gonna do with our money? So that's kind of what we're talking about internally, and I'll let Larry speak to it a little bit.
Yeah, on each of the projects and for the whole district, we're starting to look at, what are those things that we weren't sure we'd be able to do, but we would really like to do. And in some cases, we really need to do anyway. So for example, at the high school, early on, we had talked about the two main boilers that heat most of the building are kind of right at end of life. They're still working mostly, but they break down. They're harder to fix. On any given day, maybe one of them's running and the other one isn't. So really, those are pretty important. We need to replace those, though that wasn't automatically, when the focus was on the CTE science building, then the rest of the things weren't necessarily part of it. It was more if we have money left for or room in our deferred maintenance kind of thing work. So definitely that's moved up on the list. Roofs in various places, but one in particular, the gym at the high school, lots of people going to that gym. Lots of people see buckets hanging. So, would really like to be able to address the gym roof at least. And there's some skylights up there that are pretty bad. All over at Edwards, we're starting to look at what are the things that we can do around the older building just to spruce it up and make it look. You're going to have these two beautiful buildings right next to it, and we'd like to spruce up the building a little bit. It's the eave and the under the eaves, a lot of the places it's just it's gotten wet and rotting and stuff. And so there's just a lot of places where maybe it doesn't even take a lot of money. There's we've talked a lot about, even at the end, you can get a lot of good look stuff just from painting some things, with not a huge amount of money at the end as well. So I know all kinds of things that way. Again, it's just an opportunity to continue to make the district better. There's some equipment that goes along with some of these assets that we're going to have. We're putting in a lot of polished concrete floors in the district, and we've never had those before. There's some pieces of equipment we're going to need to get and special for those kind of things that will help keep it nice for a long time. So again, there's other things like resiliency things, like we'd like to set this building up with basically a port for a generator. Not necessarily have a generator sitting here all the time, as we're kind of constrained with space of where you'd put it, but to set it up so that if power goes out, we're actually going to have the old generator from the high school. We're talking about putting it on a trailer, hooking it up so that we could bring it over, hook it into the port, because our servers, all the main computer stuff is upstairs here. If the power goes out, we lose all of that for the district. So again, looking at some of those kinds of things, doing some infrastructure things that, at the physical plant, we've got this big, huge freezer for the whole district. We don't have power backup for that. It'd be nice to, again, at least set it up so that we could hook a generator to it if we needed to, so you don't lose thousands of dollars worth of food. So those are just some of the things that we're talking about that are in addition to the main big projects. Again, looking at
just one more thing so on our maintenance plan, we had 16, I think it was 17 million actually now, that were identified as tier 1 and tier 2 repairs. And we did all of those tier 1 and tier 2 repairs. So even the boilers were a tier 3 repair, which is, identified by our consultants who help with that long range plan. So we've met the bond promise of the tier 1, tier 2, and now we're moving on to our tier 3 with what we're, our planning as far as that goes, for 2024. And then, the HVAC controls upgrade, same thing. It's, we've attacked the schools that needed it immediately, and these are the ones that remain. And so it's really about using the remaining funds to tackle the deferred maintenance that we weren't able to get to, that also was, was gonna last longer than those original 5 years that we had on the tier 1 and tier 2 list.
Questions?
The HVAC controls upgrade.
I have a question, a couple of questions. So does some of those extra projects include the gym floor at Mountain View?
That's not even
Oh.
an extra project. That's part of the Mountain View project.
Oh,
So,
good.
yeah,
Okay.
No, it's
Good,
definitely,
because that really
it's definitely,
needs to be taken care of.
yes.
That's outlived its life.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a safety hazard. And then I also had a question about the floor plan, the Dundee School with the bathroom. So I see that the sinks are all out together, but is there a separate restroom for girls and then a separate for boys? And then you have these two stalls that are on the side.
Yeah, so there'll be
the two-
signage on the front. They'll say boys, girls.
Yeah, so one
Okay.
side will be boys, one side will be girls.
Okay. And then they just wash their hands
Yeah,
together
just
out
wash
front.
out front. A lot of schools have gone to that where again, they can actually teach hand washing even,
Well, it's,
teachers can
it's where the
supervise
most
better, all
problems
that.
are, yeah.
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 Boys, and then you have these two stalls that are on the side.
Any more questions? There'll be signage.
Any more questions?
Yeah, the one side will be boys.
I was just gonna, I don't think Casey was helping design the Newburgh High School gym in 1965. North Medford High School and Newburgh High School were built at the same time. Larry and I were almost here then. It was a Southern California designer and they did a great job for Southern California, but we live in Oregon. So when Larry and I were going to school there, the water chutes were wood flutes coming off the corner of the buildings. And you had to run and dodge all the rocks just to get away from all the rain. So it was a crazy design for Oregon. But what's exciting, I think, about all this is, it seems kind of dry when you're building something, but when you get to see a house almost completed, it's going to be so exciting for the kids and the teachers and boy, we're getting some great new facilities for Newburgh. People talk about other towns and they get this and they get that, and we drive by Sherwood and such, but this is gonna be fun when it's done. So thanks, you guys.
Dave, my apologies. I actually do have a question. I apologize for not speaking up earlier. I'm going to go to the bathroom again on the Dundee. How final is this drawing? Like, is this like already scoped and
It's not built.
it's
but
not built?
It's bid.
It'd be a huge change order on the bid. And I ask this because while I understand from a perspective of the world is modern and now boys and girls wash their hands together in the bathroom, and I understand that. Maybe I'm just too old fashioned where I want to wash my hands away from boys. That's just, I would like girls to have privacy in the restroom, complete privacy in the restroom. So I don't know, but these two, the B16 and B17, are those available for everyone to use?
Yeah.
Maybe all bathrooms should be like that, where there is a toilet, a sink, and a door closed where the kids can go in and have privacy in their complete bathroom experience. And I say that because I know, and maybe parents in the district should speak out that they are okay with this, or if they want a solution for their children to have a private bathroom situation. That's just what I think kids are or parents are concerned about in this modern world where boys and girls wash hands together. I don't know.
Well, just to speak, not necessarily the hand washing, but at the high school and at Catalyst, where again, there's older students, all of the stalls, they're not just stalls that go up 6 feet or whatever. I mean, they are full walls for every stall. So there will be a lot more privacy in the bathroom than we've had before. Now that, once you come out, again, it's the girls' side and the boys' side, and there's sinks in there on those two bathrooms, but each of the stalls themselves will be, again, basically floor to ceiling walls and the doors. So nobody's messing with somebody underneath or looking over, or that kind of thing.
Right,
too.
with just the toilet though, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so so a bathroom for most people is a toilet
Those two bathrooms, but each of
and a
the
hand
stalls
washing.
themselves
So
will be,
that's just,
again, basically
my,
floor to ceiling
walls
walls and
perspective
door and
that I would
doors.
think
So
that
nobody's messing with somebody underneath. They're looking
you wash your
over.
hands. That's,
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's-
I mean, this was presented to us as a solution to prevent the kind of the behavior problems, not necessarily, and trying to create the privacy of using the restroom. And then knowing that some kids will need to use a restroom that has a private sink for, bloody noses, things like that, the other things are taken care of. And so we supplied that. Now, whether or not, if we did every restroom like that, we would, add probably $500,000 to the project. So that's what prevents us from doing every bathroom with a sink and a restroom. I mean, a sink and a toilet. So I mean, it's just talking, dollars and cents on that.
And I was going to say, most of the parents I talk to, as long as the separate toilets, they're okay with that. European style in Europe, it's always that everyone shares washing the hands together. And so, and the cost would be exorbitant. So although that's, I agree with Director Raquel that would be preferable, at what cost? I'd rather put that money elsewhere. And also you come a long way from in the beginning. It was, weren't there some plans that the boys and the girls were going to use the same toilet stalls, and you guys redesigned it? So appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I'm not feeling well, so I'm going to excuse myself.
That's, I agree with Director Raquel, that would be.
The other thing, Dave, I just wanted to, with what you were talking a little bit ago. It's been great. It's been really fun to tour like teachers through some of these buildings. We've done, Nicole found out what a box walk was last week, where we walked through the spaces where you could see, where the electrical boxes are. So where power is going to be and where there's going to be data, those kind of things, just so they can start visualizing, okay, here's the teaching wall. Here's, how things are going to work. What do you think? And people are excited about the seeing those spaces and just, again, science teachers at the high school, they're so stoked to have all these new spaces.
No, thank you very much. Again, I think if the public has any comments, email into the board and we can always get them to Larry, and he can get to Casey and we can try to, get questions answered for everybody. It's a lot of work. Larry, thanks for all your work you're doing for the school district. Thank you. Appreciate it. And Casey, you're doing a little bit, so thanks, you guys. Email into the board and you can always get them to Larry, well, that's a lot of presentation. We got probably the best ones coming up here. So the next one's going to be from our principal presentations, and looks like they're going to double team it. Oh, look at this there. So we've got Nicole Love from Edwards, and we got Ashley Lee from Joanne Austin. Ashley is go ahead. Ashley is actually a Newberg High School alumni, married a Newberg High School alumni, so she's pretty smart. And so we're looking forward to go you guys.
Is this an okay volume space? So thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. I have met many of you, but whenever Raquel, I think first time meeting you and seeing you. And I'm glad to be able to be next to Ashley. Strength in numbers, we will kind of co-present. So and we have some Edwards staff that joined us as well tonight. So that's nice to feel supported. So I'm just going to give a couple of updates and highlights of what's going on at our school. And one of those was around the bond construction work. And so Larry and Casey shared a little bit, but I wanted to highlight some of the work that Renee, who is our rep has been working with us on in regards to the murals that are going to go up and just a little bit of that process and how there's a team together that is looking at how do we represent the Edwards community and the Newburgh community on both of these buildings. And so that has been one of the highlights is just watching the work come together. It's been really tricky to be without a cafeteria and without a kitchen. That has been a challenge, but everybody in the building has been very flexible and very understanding. And so I'm thankful for that, but I am ready for the current cafeteria to go and the new one to come in. So and so that team that is working on the mural project involves some of our Edwards parents, like I said, Renee, myself, some district staff, and then at one point, once we have that artist commission, it'll include some student voice to kind of represent our school and our community on these two new pieces of our school. One thing to highlight is that we've been able to have several family events this year. And I think that's been something that families have been really thankful for, to be back in the building and to see what's going on in the school. And so we've had two different types of family nights. We've had our Title I math family night where we invited families kindergarten through second grade and just made it into make and take games and let them play some math games with their family to just build some math fluency and just having parents partner with their kids and learn what they're doing in the classroom and be able to take that game home. And then we are a dual language school. So we have of our 4 classrooms per grade level, we have 2 that are English medium and 2 that are dual language in Spanish and English. So we've had some dual language parent family nights just as an opportunity to get some of our families into the building and just support them as their students are either native English speakers learning Spanish or native Spanish speakers learning English. And so that has been also put on by our title team. And so just an opportunity to say thank you to our title teachers. Chris Smith, Liz Fodge, and Janelle Almquist have done a tremendous amount of work in getting those family nights. I mean, planning for families and just the organization that it takes to get families in the door and to have a good time and have the parents just really see what their kids are learning and be able to take something home with them. So that has been a really neat opportunity just to have families back in the building. And I feel like they have really appreciated that as well. So one of our kind of other highlights that I want to share has been around kind of 2 areas, our instructional focus on reading and on math. And so district-wide, we have a new English language arts curriculum, which has been fantastic to have consistency across the school and across the district K-5. And so this year, our teachers are just implementing that program and also working with our title staff and how do we support our students that are still struggling to learn how to read. And so as a Title I school, we have the extra benefit of added staff to support some of those students that maybe are in that bottom 20% still struggling with learning to read. And so that has been a tremendous effort we have 4 title EAs, educational assistants, and then 2 title teachers that are able to pull those kids into a smaller group. And so with our focus on reading, this has just been a great focus in getting kids, they need to learn how to read. And then with math, we've worked with our math TOSA, Dawn Reed. She came out to our school recently and has been focusing our 3rd through 5th grade teachers on how do we prepare kids for the state assessment, particularly in math. And so she has been a huge resource with our 3rd through 5th grade teachers in not just preparing for the test, because while that's important, we also want kids to be deep mathematical thinkers. And so she has worked with our 3rd through 5th grade teachers on what can we do with these interim assessments that are available to us so that kids can have experience with that statewide assessment and also so that they can get some good information on where are the holes. So just kind of a glimpse into some of the work that we're doing focused on reading and focused on math and just building our instructional program in those 2 areas. That's kind of it. I mean, in a nutshell, I could keep going, but I feel like Larry, So
Nicole,
any-
or you just do it, you just, whatever you want to say, you're good to go.
But well, I think at that point, just any questions? I don't know if anybody has any questions for us, or if we want to,
I did have a question. How are you navigating around the cafeteria? That's tough,
well,
man.
flexibility at first. So just a little backup. This is my first year in Newburgh, first year at Edwards, and first year as a principal. This is my 21st year in education, and I have never worked in a school that didn't have a cafeteria or a kitchen. And so when there was a whirlwind that kind of happened in late July, early August, when I first was hired, and it was an afterthought of like, oh yes, and there's no cafeteria. And I thought, and I remember saying to Larry, so what are we going to do? And Larry's like, we'll figure it out. And I'm just thinking like, where are we? What is going to happen? So it took some it took some thinking about how do we set up tents, which sounded a little bit scary to parents. Their kids are going to be eating outside, but they are not your traditional 10 by 10 canopy. They are the industrial white tents that you see in like with the windows around the side and the siding. So we have those set up. We can fit all of our students in there. And then now we have heat duct into the tent. So adding the sides when the weather turned a little bit colder, then adding the heat when it turned really cold. And then the trickiest part was how to move into our building because there's no kitchen. And so 2 times a day we have nutrition services deliver food. But then it was the whole logistics of, okay, so we have the food. How do we have kids come through the line to get, there's just nowhere to set up because we're right here in this courtyard. And so it was a lot of figuring out the systems of how do we get kids through the line, a lot of flexibility and patience on the part of adults, because if you've ever had four classes, so about 100 kids trying to file through and all grab the parts of their lunch and get out the doors and find their spot. It took some time to practice that. A little PTSD from how that all went at the beginning of the year. I am very thankful for the cafeteria that is coming, but yeah.
We've heard that a lot of the schools, elementary schools especially, are having more behavioral problems after COVID. Do you find that true at your school? And if so, how are you managing it?
Right. I think that, I mean, like the Providence School-Based Health Center team was saying, COVID did a real disservice to students being disconnected from face-to-face interactions, and I mean, adults as well, not just kids. And so I think on one hand, we can't attribute everything that we see to COVID and the pandemic. I think there's so many other layers of things that are happening in society, but I would say I don't have anything to compare it to from years past. I can only compare it to my previous experiences. And I feel like walking into Edwards, we are in a really good space where we have students who are pushing boundaries, right? That's kind of how you learn, is like, where is the edge of this boundary? But nothing that is outside the scope of feeling like adults or other kids feel unsafe. But I think the way that we get to that, and that can just kind of be some ups and downs and ebbs and flows of different cohorts of kids. But I think what that team earlier was saying too, and one of your questions was, how do we get supports to students earlier? And I think a lot of that, how that looks at K-5 looks different than at 6-8 and 9-12, but at K-5, it's a lot of how do we focus on labeling and expressing our emotions, and how do we focus on what are some regulation skills, because that's part of their brain, whether they have any sort of, blame it on COVID or blame it on any, traumatic events in their life. They're still learning how to regulate those emotions. And so I think the earlier, especially at the K-5 level, the more that we can have teachers and not just counselors, but as a whole school approach to supporting students with social emotional learning, which is a lot of understanding your emotions, labeling those emotions, expressing those emotions, and then what do you do with them? How do you self-regulate or co-regulate with an adult or another student?
Having those tools of being able to first identify how they're feeling, how am I feeling this way? What made me feel this way? And then having those tools to be able to help regulate themselves in the classroom or in our wellness centers that we have in our buildings, just giving them all sorts of tools to be able to do that. Even as adults, I still need to think about what are my tools that I have to help regulate myself.
And recognizing our triggers, because we all have triggers, right? Kids, adults. And so recognizing what those are and what do I do? And how do I sense that in myself when I'm starting to feel that escalation? So, but yeah,
I'd also say, you know, like expressing to kids that like your feelings are valid and the way that you're feeling is okay. We just have to make sure that how we express those
Mhm.
feelings are in a
safe.
and workable way. So teaching that to students is one of our goals.
Thank you.
I got another
Thanks,
question
Ashley.
For Nicole,
Yeah.
Nicole, this is kind of tough when you could even email your answer back. This might be kind
Okay.
of
Well, here we go.
Put me on the spot.
good. So I went to Edwards a couple years back in
Mhm.
a long time ago. So I'm an Edwards alumni, but I've always, had a fond spot. That gym has been used more than any gym in this district for decades. That school has, one of our oldest schools. How do you and your staff feel that we could do better, or do just something different as far as having so many students at Edwards compared to other schools? So
Yeah.
not trying to compare you, just saying it's got to be a huge challenge. What can we do better?
And I'm glad you brought that up because one of the things that I just kind of skipped over is the size of our school, just kind of introducing our school. I know that you guys are all familiar with each elementary school, but really the details of that. And we have about 490 kids at pre-K through 5. We have a pre-K program, and we have 65 staff members. We have 37 licensed and 28 classified. So we're a big staff and we're a big school. Right now we are packed to the gills. And so next year with being able to move and spread out, because the south building will be 4 new classrooms plus a flexible learning space plus the counselor's wing. So that frees up all of the space inside for folks to then be able to spread out. Because right now the reality is it is a constant, it's a constant shuffle. One of our teachers in the audience teaches her reading group in my office twice a week. And I just step outside and she closes because she needs a space to teach her reading group. And it's wonky, but we have to be flexible. And so I think the addition of the south building and the north building are going to be huge. And then the bond team, just at our last Wednesday meeting, we talked a lot about what are those little things, kind of like what Larry was saying, that we can do to the interior. And so I think that that bond team has really listened to teachers of, we have chalkboards, which is fine, but we also need whiteboards. And so just those sorts of things, like in the classroom, how can we upgrade these little things that really are important to being able to teach? You have the tools at hand. And so what are the upgrades to the classrooms? And so the bond team has really been paying attention to making sure that we have those whiteboards, making sure that we have the wayfinding in the building, the fresh coat of paint. But speaking of the gym it's used almost every night during basketball season and on the weekends. It is a very heavily used gym. And I'm not sure. That might be something I email you, because I'm not sure what support or what to do about the gym. It needs a little love.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's still the best gym in the district, in my opinion, but no, that's a good answer. Thank you. Maybe think about that more in detail and send us an
Yeah.
email. So
I can do that.
thanks
Thank
for that
you.
answer.
Well, thank you for asking. All right. My friend.
Good evening. Thanks again for having us here. I'm Ashley Lee. I'm the principal at Joanne Austin. Currently, we have 211 students and 39 total staff members. As Nicole said, one of our highlights as well for at JA is getting parents back in the building, whether it's volunteering, visiting, with our parent nights, our Title I nights. So our parent group, our PSO, they've done a really great job of trying to invite families into our building more often as well. And so actually this Friday, we have our second movie night of the year. We'll be watching Rio. It's a free event, but we've also tied in some celebrations when we did our JAG Jog or our Jogathon for our fundraising. And so if students earned a certain amount of money for our JAG Jog, they'll get a little treat prize at the movie night. So just a fun way to get kids involved and kids back into the building. It's been really fun to, see families. When we had our first event back in September, I just remember seeing families like saying, wow, thank you for having us back in the building. It's been so long. Or there have been families that hadn't been in the building at all. And, they had second, third graders. And so it was really fun to start having families come back. So I was a reading specialist before I was a principal. So the data is like what drives me. Like I love looking at data. So a couple of different highlights that I want to look at is some of those data points. As Nicole also mentioned, you know, this is our year one of really implementing our new adopted curriculum. And our reading specialist, Becky Gilmore, and our teachers have done a really great job of implementing it to fidelity and integrity within our school. And while all of our reading scores have gone up, some have gone up a little bit more than others. You know, when I look at our composite score, so our overall composite, at the middle of the year, we had 49% of our students passing. But then when we look deeper, we look at the phonemic awareness. So phonemic awareness is the foundational skill of reading, and you have to be able to hear and manipulate sounds. That's your foundational skill. At the beginning of the year, we had 59% that were proficient. And now at the middle of the year, we have 73% proficient. So that's some really great growth. You know, it's really awesome growth. Like I said, our title team, Becky Gilmore, she's our one woman show over there. She's doing an awesome job with our interventions, getting our teachers more involved with interventions during their reading time. So those are some huge growths. Like I said, some places are bigger growths than other. Another great area was our reading accuracy. So how many correct words? We went from 55% to 67%. So again, some really great growth there. Another highlight that I wanted to talk about was we are partnering with Mathnasium in Sherwood to have a math night for one of our Title I nights. At the beginning of the year, again, I go back to data, like that data is just what drives me. So at the beginning of the year, we had 71% of our students who were within 1 year of their grade. So if they were at third grade, we had, you know, they were even at second grade. So 71% of our students were within 1 year of their own grade level. At the middle of the year for math, we have 81% of our students are at within one year of grade level. So in order to keep that momentum going, we wanted to bring in Mathnasium and just to have some ways of bringing in math fluency, number sense, and with games and different tools and techniques that Mathnasium is going to share with our staff. So we have that coming up on April 13th. So we're really excited about that. And then just some areas that we're going to keep continuing improving on and just keep working away is, you know, we are an RTI district. And so ideally we want our core instruction to meet 80% of our students. So we still have some growth, you know, we still have some growth to go and a ways to go. And so in order to do that, what we're doing is we're looking at focusing our standards to the curriculum, making sure that they're aligned, hitting our power standards with math and with reading, and making sure that our standards are aligned with our common formative assessments and using that data to drive our instruction.
Questions?
Yes.
I talked to a teacher at your school who's one of your biggest fans. And she was saying that you have a system of accountability for students and their parents to help curb behavior problems. Could you talk a little bit about that?
You know, we try to get parents involved in as many ways as possible, whether that's the teachers are reaching out and, you know, hey, we're seeing some signs of this, or I'm reaching out if it's more escalated behavior. We do a lot of things like with restorative justice. We talk about, hey, you know, this was a choice that you made. And we talk about different choices that could have been made, and just having that open line of communication between school and home. And just, again, you know, coming back to the comment that we made, that those feelings that those students are having are very valid and they're very real. But, you know, some of the choices that we make while we have those feelings aren't like productive choices. So just having that open communication with families, whether that's a note home, a phone call home with the student with you, just bringing it all that we're all on one team. We all are here together and for one purpose, it's for those kiddos.
What about consequences for bad behavior or not appropriate behavior? Can you tell me about some of those, perhaps? I think of it more as like a learning opportunity, right? I think of it more of as like a learning opportunity, not so much as the consequence, right? And so
making sure that whatever quote unquote the consequence would be a learning opportunity for that student. If it was that they're kicking in line or that they are stealing, making sure that they are understanding the impact that that's making on somebody else, and making a plan to move forward that we don't make those actions again.
I want to give a shout out to Becky Gilmore because
Mhm.
my son had her as a kindergarten teacher and she's awesome.
She's
So
phenomenal.
It's so great, the wonderful things that she is doing. So
She's great.
Becky.
Thank you, Becky.
Yeah.
Any other questions from the board? Nothing there. I think what I would be cool if you guys could, actually, you just gotta get more excited about education. I mean, but no, I mean, if you guys could, like when you have time, I know it's been another 14-hour minimum day. So as soon as you're done here, get out of here, go home. But, maybe that email back to us, just kind of when you have time to think what we could do to help more. I mean, we could talk for 10 minutes and say it 20 different ways, but that's, what your staff needs, different schools, different needs. So I'd appreciate that, and I know
Absolutely.
not today, maybe get some rest.
Okay.
So any other questions? Any other comments you guys want to make?
Thanks for having us. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for what you do. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for all the staff coming out there too. Thank you. All right, our next thing up, we're gonna get through a few more things on our discussion items here. We have Scott Lindbergh. Scott, do you have anything on the first readings and the policies you want to add to anything?
Did you want to go over board goals first, or you want me to jump to policy?
I was gonna have you go policies first.
Okay. So I brought before the board committee, we met on February 21st, and there were 3 policies that are pre-existing that we currently have that we deal with harassment in this district. And so sexual harassment, that first policy hadn't been updated since 2006. And so that was in regards to taking a look at the staff-centered process and what we had in place. So we needed to update that, and seeking out the guidance from OSBA. It helps to drive the committee in our decision process. And then we also looked at a sexual harassment policy along with the students, with that policy been more recently updated back in 2018, but we may have missed an opportunity along the way to update. And then the third policy that the committee brought forward was another policy in regards to harassment, intimidation, bullying, cyberbullying, teen dating violence, and domestic violence. And so this is at the student level as well. So it may seem somewhat redundant or overlapping, but we just want to make sure that we're staying current with the latest and greatest policies that are coming forward from OSBA and keeping up to date with the laws in the state. So right now I have a first reading before you as a board. If you've got questions, comments, or concerns between now and the next meeting, if you want to reach out to me, I can address those in an open session, or we'll have the second reading and we can address those questions or concerns that you may have at that time. So with that, I don't want to steal the thunder from Director Powell or Director DeHart, who is also on the committee with me and giving me guidance. If they wanted to add anything at this time, please do so.
Anything to add to that? I'm good to go. Again, out there, the policies are, the laws that schools operate by. It's a lot of this comes from Oregon Department of Education, Oregon State School Board Association. And so appreciate that, Scott, and you guys working on that. Thank you. That's first reading, and then we'll have more details at the next one. So thank you very much. Good to go there, sir? Okay. Board goals. If you bring that one up there for everybody. On the board goals, interesting year for us, with all the changes and everything like that. But, a lot of times the board goals align with the superintendent's goals. And as we're going through these, it's mid-school year. So a lot of this stuff is being worked through this year for next year. And, the board goals are something that we'll sit down with the superintendent and talk about. When we're looking at all this, not like we're trying to go too slow on this, but a lot of this stuff has already been put in place or it's kind of fluid because of the changes. And so a lot of times, mid-year, like right now, when we're where we're at, we're kind of finishing up the, mid third quarter here of the school year. And so a lot of the stuff will be worked on in more detail. And there'll be, lots more chances for input on how that moves forward, what it looks like for the next school year. School year operates from July 1st to, the end of June. And so we're in the middle of that cycle right now. And fortunately, we have an awesome superintendent that's got a lot of, good things, as a moving target. It's pretty fluid and has done a great job based around what the board goals were and are, and will come to be. So if there's no other questions on that, I'm going to make a quick statement on the Bill of Rights, Parents' Bill of Rights. This is something that's going to not come from the board. It'll come from the community. This is the parents. And the whole reason I got into run for the school board was for the parents. The parents usually have the lowest voice on the totem pole. So a Bill of Rights, some people don't like the name of that. But it's gonna be the voice of the parents out in our community. The board will listen to all those before we make a final decision on that. A proclamation is something that it's valuable, yet at the same time it's something to recognize. And so as we get more input from the public, then we'll have a better opportunity to start collecting what Ashley would say, that data, and put that all together into a Parents' Bill of Rights. And so we'll look from parents across the school district to have input on that. Obviously, that's when you talk about the Parents' Bill of Rights, people parent different. So we'll see what we get. We'll see what kind of information we get back from the public. And I'm excited to see what parents have to say.
I will position, my position on this is we have a policy KAB, that is parental rights. And that is the policy that we have in place that was established in 2017. And I have it open here on my phone. I'm pretty sure everyone can look into that policy. So Newburgh School District Policy KAB on your Google and look at that. And what is it that we need to add, adjust on the policy that we already have in place? And as a committee, this board will work on that, and maybe the community will give an input. My opinion is that this Parent Bill of Rights is a lot of swirling and stirring that will not give any value added to what our parents want, which is to have parental rights that are already in a policy. And there's just going to be this swirl of I want this and I want that, and let's meet and let's have a discussion. And we are what I understand is that we are trying to come together as a community to do what is best for the students of Newburgh. I don't know if there's value added into this swirling of parental bill of rights. We already have a policy for parental rights. Can't we work with what we have to improve what we have without having people from one side and the other side get in a room and kind of yell at each other, or maybe talk politely? I don't know. To my point of view, I don't think that there is a lot of good coming out of a Bill of Rights when we already have a policy that talks about parental rights. That's just my position.
What about, you bring up a good point that there is already a Bill of Rights. Would it be beneficial to review the Bill of Rights so everybody knows, and then we can have discussions and clarifications, because a lot is unknown.
Yeah, I think the path forward for this Bill of Rights is to look at the policy committee, looks at policy KAB, and say, what is it that we think is missing here? And ask the community to send an email saying, hey, I want to see this. Hey, I want to see that. And this policy committee reviews this input and say, hey, this is a great idea. This is, and then have a discussion as a board and have in one of the meetings, people may come and make comment. I'm weary to a parental bill of rights, and we already have a policy for parent rights. That's just, it just seems stirring that is unnecessary when we have so many other things that are way more important, like making sure that our students can read for sure and do math and science and CT and I mean many other things that are more, to my point of view, more urgent. That's than the swirling of.
Dr. Raquel shares the same opinion that me and Moya kind of.
Director Raquel shares kind of the same opinion that Moya and I have been working to create, I guess, where we kind of believe that creating something so like polarizing as like a parental bill of rights, it can not only, but it really opens up a lot of controversy, a lot of issues, a lot of divisiveness between different groups, what they want for their students, what they want for their children. And if there are already policies in place, if there are things that are so important that they really do need to be added, I think it would be a lot easier to just amend those into the pre-existing than create a big committee and have them meet and then take their input and then create this draft. And then it just seems like a lot of extra work where, again, that work could be put into education and just so many other things where it's just kind of time wasted. I mean, not wasted, but energy spent on something that we could do an easier and better way. So I really appreciate your opinion on that.
The other thing I'm going to add to that is that a lot of what parents want and what we want, we can't do because the Oregon laws say you can't do it. And so I was concerned about getting parents' hopes up and students' hopes up when we can't do a lot of it. So that was another concern I had. Yeah. We have a lot of limitations.
Yeah, we are a district that is funded by federal and state, and there are boundaries on what both sides want to do in the school and their ideal of what we parents have. We need to keep it simple. And by keeping it simple is we have a policy in place, KAB, Google it. Newberry School District Policy KAB. Go look at it. Look at it, read it. What is missing here that I think should be here? Director Peregrino or Peregrino de Brito, send an email to me and I will forward to them, or board of directors. Do it that way. Because having this, polarizing conversation is not value added to what we as a board should be doing to improve this district. That's where I'm going to land, and I'll.
Okay. We are going to move on to world language with Dr. Phillips.
Okay, this is a really quick one. We are going to go through an curriculum adoption for our high school world languages. And so we needed to announce that in a public board meeting that we're going to go through that adoption process. There will be time set aside for the community to review the curriculums before they're presented to the board for approval. So just want to know, we plan on doing that this spring before the end of this school year, before June 30. The curriculums will be selected with teacher voice, administrator voice, and then they will be laid out so the community can come and check them out. And then, of course, they will be presented to the board, so you'll see our recommendation. So just letting you know.
Do we already know the languages? Is Portuguese in it?
No.
Okay, thanks, Dr. Phillips. We have some board action items right now, you guys. We got some contracts to look over here. They're in your packet. And so I'm just going to go down the list. There's 5 of them. And we already heard from Cornerstone and Larry, but I'll have Larry help me kind of through this part here, but these are really important. And if there's any questions for Larry on each one as we move through, Larry, I'll just let you jump in if we have a question.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, we've done some of these already. And so I think the first one, there were a lot of questions. And since then there's been less, just because kind of know the process, but I'm happy to answer any questions. So I'm happy to go through it as fast or as slowly as you like. I don't really have anything to present. It's more just if you have questions about any of them.
Okay, the first one is Joanne Austin. Like we said, we've been given all the information here and we've had that. So accepting a small construction project contract with Brock Camp and Jaeger Incorporated as outlined.
I move that the Newburgh School District Board of Directors approve the small construction project contract 2023-0202 for the Joanne Austin ES 2023 improvement with the contractor Brock Camp and Jaeger Inc. as presented.
I'll second that.
All right, thank you. We are down to 5. Brandon was not feeling well, so what's that? We do. So we are, need all 5 here.
We have
Is Mr. Riley here? Oh, there he is. We have 6. All right, all those in favor of this motion and second, please raise your right hand.
Dave Brown,
Yes.
it's delayed on your screen, so it's not gonna vote. Just nods it in.
okay.
Got it. Raise your right hand again so I can see everybody. Motion passes 5-0. Okay, we'll move to the second one. Mabel Rush. Again, accepting a small construction project contract for Mabel Rush. Improvements with Brock Camp and Jaeger Incorporated. Need a motion in a second.
He knows I'm gonna ask a question. Okay, so I'm looking here at the bid and the provider and we're going with Brockman. And,
Yep.
and I see that 5-Star Builders had a slightly lower end on alternate number here. I'm looking just at the last column.
On the alternate.
Mhm.
Yeah, there were several alternates on that and we only accepted certain alternates, but Rocamp was the low bidder on the and on what.
Okay.
Rocamp was the low bidder for both the main bid and for the alternate that we're accepting.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I will move that the Newburgh School District Board of Directors approve the small construction project for the Mabel Rush ES 2023 improvements with contractor Brookman and Jaeger Inc. as presented.
Second.
All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion passes 5-0. All right. Third one, Ewing Young. Accepting a small construction project contract for Ewing Young for ES roof maintenance with Griffith Roofing Company as outlined.
I'll keep on keeping on. I move that the Newburgh School District Board of Directors approve the small construction project for the Mabel Rush ES 2023 improvements with contracted Brookman and Jaeger Inc. as presented.
It was Ewing Young.
Ewing Young.
Sorry, I gotta repeat here. Sorry about that. Let me read it again. Okay, I move that the Newburgh School District Board of Directors approve the small construction project for Ewing Young ES roof maintenance with contract Griffin roofing company as presented. Is that correct? All right.
Second.
All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Larry, how old's that roof at Ewing Young? How old's that roof at Ewing Young?
Unfortunately, it's not as old as some of the other ones in the district. It's just was not a good product, and so it has not held up well.
Yeah. Okay, our fourth one is Mountain View, accept small construction project for Mountain View Middle School with 5-star builders as outlined.
I'll move that the Newburgh School District Board of Directors approve the small construction project contract for the Mountain View Middle School 2023 improvements with contract 5-star builders, Inc. as presented.
I second.
All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion passes 5-0. Larry, you're 4 for 4. Last one, Dundee Elementary contract. Now, this one's a little bit different, except a small construction project contract for Dundee Elementary School with Kirby Nagelhout Construction as outlined.
I'll move that the Newburgh School District Board of Directors approve the small construction project contract for the Dundee Elementary School with contract Kirby Nagelhout Construction as presented.
Second.
All those in favor, please raise your right hand. You have a good night, Larry.
Thank you. And, besides the fact, I mean, we obviously have to pass approve the contracts, but especially for these jobs that are just for the summer, these companies are trying to gear up and order the things that they need. And it's hard to order things before you have a signed contract. And so this is very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. All right. We just have one student rep tonight. Lucy is here, and should have introduced you earlier, so that's my fault. Moira's got a state playoff basketball game tonight, so you're running solo. So if you have a comment, do you want to make anything?
I don't really have much to say. We're still working with Dr. Phillips to increase these junior standardized test scores. It's been a main priority, and we're really starting to make actual moves and get things concrete into place. And so I'm really excited to see how this will go.
Lucia, appreciate it. Dr. Phillips.
All right. I've got quite a bit actually. So I wanted to congratulate our wrestling team. They took second place at the state tournament this last week. And yeah, so I'm gonna call out some kids. Isaac Hampton, 120 pounds state champion. This is his second state championship. Zach, is it Keonan? 132 pounds, 3-time state champion, and he's just a junior, so he could be a 4-timer. Hudson Davis, a senior, 195 pounds. He got his 3rd state championship. Then we had Gus Amerson, a runner-up, Cougar Friesen, a runner-up, Gavin Rangel, 3rd place, Patrick Negra, 3rd place, Trey Frederick, 4th place, and Dylan Lee Jr., 5th place. So we had 9 placers, 3 champions, took 2nd place as a team. Pretty cool. And I was impressed with, and Lucia's one of them, the Pin Pals. How many of you are there?
There are about 20-ish total, but there are about 10 to 12 consistent people who kind of show up to everything. And
yeah. So these girls, I think, are they freshmen through seniors?
Yeah, it's open to everybody.
So these girls are all helping keep score and time, and they were they helped me because we were sitting in the stands and I couldn't see all the way across the gym at the scoreboard. And so they would tell me the score because I couldn't see that far. So they were helpful. So thank you. Yeah, and they worked the state tournament, not only the 5A, 6A, but they also helped the state with running the 1A, 2A, 3A, 4A tournaments.
Yeah,
So
that
they're
was-
busy for 3 days.
Yeah, that was a 9-hour day of just being on the computers, helping out. Yeah, it's not like that important, but it's a lot of work and like a lot of energy and time. And so it's really great to have so many people involved
Yeah.
and for the
And
recognition.
it's important. Believe me, the coaches, they know that the tables are ran right because the Newburgh girls are doing it.
Yes.
It's a big deal. So thank you.
Thank you.
Basketball, girls basketball ended the season 17-7, second place in league. And they hosted a first round playoff game tonight at home against West Lynn. It started at 7:00. It's now 9:00, and I did get a text from our athletic director telling me that we lost. But it's all right. We made it to the playoffs. Second place in league's pretty cool. Real quick, the bond crew, they're great. As you could see tonight, they did a great job. Our health center crew, they're great. Two more things or three, snow days. We had 2 snow days last week. Snow days are, nobody's a winner. No one's happy. If you call a snow day, you shouldn't have. If you didn't call it, it's no fun. And today we had a little bit, we called a late start just because we were worried about high school kids driving. Got our elementary kids here on time and it worked out fine. So today turned out to be a pretty good day. We did have a situation at Crater Monday. We had a faulty water heater. And because of that faulty water heater, there was natural gas leak. So we kept the kids out of the building. We didn't let them in the building to start the day. We got the gas company there and they checked it out. The kids were outside long enough. Luckily, it wasn't raining, but it did get chilly. So we brought the kids down to CV Middle School and had them stay in the gymnasium until we got an all clear. CV was very gracious. They were really great. They accommodated all those kids and teachers. The kids and teachers from Crater, they filled up that gym and they were awesome. The kids adapted, the teachers adapted. They really did a great job with dealing with kind of a lousy situation. One neat thing that happened was Shay Skiles. She's the band teacher at CV. She actually brought her band into the gym and played songs for the elementary kids. And it was kind of a cool recruitment idea because she always wants to expose her band to the littles. And so it turned out to be kind of cool. So I just want to thank both those staffs for doing a good job and trying to come up with something positive out of a lousy situation. Last thing I want to talk about is this parent Bill of Rights. You know, whether we call it a parent Bill of Rights or a Newburgh Public Schools parent partnership, or whether it goes away, and we do something else, I don't know. But I do think what I would like to see is a renewed commitment out of the district and our community, parents specifically. I think COVID hurt us when it comes to partnering with our families. And maybe we could start having conversations about how do we rebuild that. We had a lot of really cool things going on before COVID, and COVID shut them down. And so I would like some conversations about how to build that back up. I think parents involved in their child's education is vitally important for their success. So anything we can do to encourage that, I'm for. I will tell you that we created the Parent Bill of Rights email address. And I know there are some naysayers out there that were saying that I'm going to get emails and I'm going to throw some out and I'm only going to invite certain people and on and on and on. That's nonsense. That's not going to happen. We've received 42 emails One gentleman sent 2 emails and they were both very negative and very inappropriate. So obviously they're out, but all other 40 emails are invited in. Politics, I don't care. Some of the people that emailed, they've made it very clear that they're not a big fan of me. I don't care. They're invited. Okay. Everybody's invited. If you wrote me an email at that Parent Bill of Rights, you will be invited. What we are anticipating, and this might change, I mean, right, I'll take board direction on this, but what we're anticipating is if this goes forward, that between now and spring break, we would have the first meeting. The first meeting would be a Zoom meeting. We would get everybody, obviously on Zoom, and Zoom has the capability of let's say there's 40 people there of breaking up into 5 breakouts and give them some questions to answer and then have a spokesman and come back together and talk. So that's my idea, to get some feedback from our parents if we go through with it, right? I don't know. One thought I also had was we do have a lot of policies, and in those policies, weaved into those policies are Parent Bill of Rights. It might be an interesting activity to go through all of our current policies, pull out every time a parent has rights and put them on one sheet of paper. Because I think that might be quite telling. I don't know anybody who's done that. It would be an interesting activity, and it might save the group or the board or whomever quite a bit of time. Yeah. So once again, if you wrote an email, and some of you are in the audience, I see you. If you wrote an email, you're in, period. If it happens. So, all right. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Phillips. Thank you, Lucia. Future agenda items coming up. We have at our next meeting on 3/14, we will have staff contract renewals. It's coming that time of the year. Again, staff comes and goes quite rapidly in public schools. And so it's a really fluid target there. So it's something that happens a lot. An SIA presentation will happen, and then there'll be public comment on that. SIA is a form of funding. There'll be a budget review. There'll also be the 2023-2024 calendar review. There'll also be the Willamette ESD membership. We'll be discussing that. And there's also the math adoption that was postponed. So we'll be an update on that. The future board meeting will be the regular session on March 14th at 7 p.m. There'll be public comment. That's a regular school board meeting. And there'll be no work session in March because we are in March of spring break. And so trust me, our staff and kids are looking forward to that. And then we'll have a regular session back on April 11th, 2023 at 7 p.m. And we'll get going again. That'll be a regular scheduled meeting with public comment. So with that said, we are adjourned. Thank you very much for coming.